International students are struggling to pay rent. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at this article from Domain discussing international students struggling to pay their rent. Now, for those of you that don't know, international students comprise one of the magic stimulus factors of our property sector. International student accommodation, well, are very popular, and a lot of the universities have even invested in them. I'd hate to think how many people have bought several of these international student units and maybe are paying them off at interest only to negative gear them. Because they're expensive buildings. All of the services and perks that they have in there. You've got usually the lifts, you've got kitchens, you've got social rooms. And then you're expected to refurbish them every so often. The capital gains are pretty pathetic on them, and you can't live in them yourself usually, according to many of the rules, if you need to. So you could be an owner of an apartment, homeless, and couldn't even live in it. Brilliant world, isn't it? So international students flock to legal services as they struggle to pay rent in Melbourne. The number of international students seeking legal help for tenancy issues has doubled as they struggle to make ends meet during Melbourne's Stage 4 lockdown. Student legal services across the city have reported shocking instances of international students at breaking point, still forced to pay rent on properties they haven't lived in since March. RMIT alone has reported a 105% increase in legal assistance between April and June this year, with a huge leap, 165% more inquiries relating to credit and debt. We have an absolutely ridiculous amount of students getting in touch. Senior community lawyer with RMIT Student Legal Services, James Trezzi, told Domain. Some students are stuck overseas and are reaching out because they have been paying rent since March and then contacted their landlord about breaking the lease, he said. Many were being told they were unable to do so and threatened with legal action. This is despite updated laws to allow people in financial distress because of the pandemic to give 14 days written notice to break a lease. There is also a memorandum on evictions of tenants in financial distress in place until the end of September. Now, can you see landlords that are dealing with people who perhaps English isn't their first language being unscrupulous and taking advantage of them? I can see that happening 100%. 100%. Let me know if you've experienced this in the comments, guys, or what stories you've heard. Be interesting to see, to get some of the anecdotal evidence going. In some of the worst cases brought to the legal services, one student asked for advice after being told by the landlord that he needed to continue to pay rent in a Bandura rooming house, even after the room he had moved out of had been re-rented to a friend. Oh, fantastic. Bloody hell. What? Wow. Another was seeking help after breaking their lease while they slept on a friend's couch as they did not have enough money to pay the rent. A third student who was originally from China was told by his landlord he could not return to his room until he had a pandemic test to prove he didn't have the virus. Well, that's just a continuation of what we're happening here. Others were being referred to the legal service from mental health services as they struggle to deal with the stress. University of Melbourne student legal service lawyer Isabel Butler said many students who had fled back to their families before international borders closed were now facing legal threats or threats of being taken to the Victorian Civil Administrative Tribunal by landlords. Before the Victorian government changed the tenancy laws, there were few options for international students, Ms. Butler said. The borders closed so quickly, they had to leave. Students were often being given incorrect information, including being told they had to continue to pay rent, even when this was not the case. There should be a provision that when there is a change to tenancy laws, that it needs to be communicated to tenants. International students were seeking help with lease breaks, but were not looking to negotiate with landlords or property managers for lower rents, she said. It's a similar case for tenants across Victoria who haven't taken up the option of renegotiation. Ms. Butler said international students were often concerned with future consequences as agents usually offered rent deferrals and not reductions, meaning large rental debts were being accrued. So you can see here how the international students are really copying it. Now, there's discussion of bringing international students back, coming over into South Australia. 200 of them flying over right now. And this is because migration, students coming over, it's, well, two reasons. One, it supports all of the investment in international student accommodation. A lot of people have invested in that. Universities have invested in it. They have political power, political will to steer the machinations of our parliament. And then there's other discussions of using it to increase migration as a pathway towards citizenship. And sure, in some ways that you can argue, fantastic, you're getting smart, capable people, so long as we're choosy as what degrees allow that path. I wouldn't imagine gender studies is of any value to our civilization for at least the next 500 years. Perhaps it's not the best thing to be bringing people over with, but engineering and high-level degrees probably are. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's also a brain drain to other countries. And now there's going to be more competition around the world, particularly with the Australian dollar, going up compared to, or the US dollar going down. Why would you come to Australia when you could go to the US? We'll have to see. So what do you think, everyone? What do you think? How do you think this will manifest in the property market? Do you think it will manifest in some of the universities' capacity? And will there be a greater drive to bring more international students over? You've got to feel sorry for them. You really have. Because a lot of them cop it. We had one friend who came over to Australia, and she lived with us. She couldn't afford rent. So we'd converted a part of her dining room into a bedroom with her. It was pretty tough. Build a half wall, because this is where we were renting. We didn't do it properly. Now we would just build a full wall. And, she ended up doing the runner and owing the university thousands of dollars. Because they'd let her over, they'd bent all these rules, and she just couldn't pay the fees. International student fees are very high. And for what they're getting, it's quite questionable. She did this. She went and did architecture because her father, who had passed, was an architect and kind of wanted to do it in his honor, so she kind of felt obliged, which is kind of sad. I'm seeing that a lot with a lot of the internationals, at least back in my day. I'm sure they're all well-behaved now. Well, as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions. How do you think this will manifest in property? Do you think the universities will be affected? Will there be a drive to get more international students over? Will that be the first draw card for migration that they'll be pulling back over? Or do you think some of them will, realize what Australia's really like and go, you know what? I'm going somewhere else. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy a merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, have a great day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.